There are a lot of choices when it comes to car shopping. Only Kelley Blue Book is your trusted resource for one-stop car shopping. Have confidence to price it, buy it, fix it, trade it, sell it, and love it when you KBB.com it. It's as easy to say as it is to use. Kelley Blue Book is the #1 most trusted third-party automotive site. So no matter what your it is, be empowered to nail it at KBB.com.
This Labor Day, put an end to junk sleep. Right now at Mattress Firm, save up to $500 on our top-rated brands when you get a king bed for the price of a queen or a queen for a twin. Plus, get a free adjustable base when you spend $6.99 on Sealy. Or save up to 50% on hot buys from top brands like Sleepy's or Serta. With our highly trained sleep experts and our low price guarantee, you can rest assured you'll get the best bed at the best price. Unjunk your sleep. Only at Mattress Firm. Offer valid with qualifying purchase. Restrictions apply. Valid at participating locations only. For offer details, visit mattressfirm.com/sale.
Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Monday edition of The Yard. I went to bed early last night. I took some time off this weekend. Finally got everything finished up with the book. There's always a little, as they say, rat killing stuff that has to take place there at the end. You know, got to update the bio, write an intro, a synopsis, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff done. Today I'll do the final read. Go through and answer any editing questions and just kind of make sure we're good to go. And then it goes off to layout and it'll head to the printer. Keeping my fingers crossed a little bit, we can get this thing late October. Not optimistic though. Probably early to mid-November. But that's the problem with the supply chain these days. Not a lot of people in America want to work, unfortunately. So a lot of these companies are having to kind of scale back production is because of the fact they can't find qualified workers. And also, too, as a result of that, you've got some supply chain issues. You got, it's difficult to get all the materials you need to get things going because they're not always in production. It's part of the life we're living these days. More importantly right now is the remnants of Hurricane Ida that are rolling through Mississippi. Hope that you all are safe. Hope that all of our friends down in Louisiana are safe. I know there has been some catastrophic damage down there. I've only heard of one death so far, and hopefully that's where it stays. And one is too many. There's no doubt about it. So hopefully that's the end of the loss of life. Our immediate concern here in Mississippi, of course, not having to deal with the things they have in the South, with storm surge and 150 mile per hour winds, but potentially some tornadic activity here in the next 24 hours, and so. Hope that you guys are safe. Hope that you guys are taking precautions. I've had to get out and do a few things around the property today just to kind of make sure we don't have a lot of water accumulation because we're expected 5 to 7 inches of rain in the greater Starkville area. I want to share with you guys too. I spent a lot of time in Louisiana and moved to Louisiana. I guess officially. I was back and forth a little bit in my younger years. But I moved to the state of Louisiana back in 1996, I guess it was. It was toward, 96. Got through Christmas and moved to Lafayette, Louisiana. Had a great time down there, learned what boudin was. Heard people talk about Boudreaux and Thibodeau regularly. It's a great time. Worked at Lafayette there on Johnston Street for a while. Really liked Lafayette. Lafayette's a town of over 100,000 people. Or it was when I was down there. Of course, Louisiana Lafayette's there. Or the University of Louisiana, as they want to be called. Not officially called that, but yeah, it was a good time. And there's a lot of good people down there. It's a little bit cliquish. I guess, if you're not from the area, it takes a little while to kind of get in, but a lot of fine people there, and spent some time working in Opelousas and with a man named Mr. Charlie Bordelon, who was a prince of a man, and worked with a guy in Lafayette by the name of Reuven Desatel. That's right, Reuven Desatel. Great guy. But, you begin to develop some friendships down there and some relationships, and, there's a toughness down there that's a little bit maybe unique to the area. And, bounced around a little bit, went to Natchitoches for a while. Of course, that's where Steel Magnolias was filmed, and had a great time. I could have stayed in Natchitoches forever, man. I really could. I love that little place. The Northwestern State is there. The only problem with a place like Natchitoches is, if you want to go buy a shirt, it's like an hour away. If you want to go buy a nice collared shirt or something, you've got to drive to Shreveport or Alexandria. But Natchitoches is a great place, great food, great people. Sometimes it's a little tough getting across the Cane River. I think there's only 3 bridges across the river, so it gets a little backed up at times. But Natchitoches and that whole pocket of Louisiana, a lot like Mississippi. I lived in a pecan orchard, and I was able to walk to work today, so most days, which is kind of cool too. But moved to Baton Rouge, and I tell you, we were down there for Katrina, and it was just a different deal. And so I guess we've all lived through that, and you're very sensitive to this. And the fact that this new storm hits on the 16-year anniversary of the Katrina landing is scary for a lot of people. And the winds for this one actually higher sustained winds this go around. My hope is the infrastructure down there has been improved to the point that we're not having that same type of fallout. I remember having to go in. I was in the loan business back then. And I remember having to go in to help the RM that was in New Orleans to go inventory those stores, and it's like something out of a movie, man. It's like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. There's no electrical services. You're going down there, and there's people wandering the streets, and you don't know if the next person's going to come up and try to rob you or anything. It was an experience I'm glad that I had, but I don't really want to have again. And so my hope is that we can maybe not descend into anarchy this time. That's the hope, and I hope that you all are absolutely safe. The hurricane also making some changes to the Mississippi State schedule. Mike Leach was scheduled to meet with the media today at around 2 p.m. That does not appear to be taking place. And a lot of it's because Mississippi State canceled classes and all activities for today. Starkville School District did the same thing, including virtual learning. It is a complete shutdown. Now, I don't know about businesses in the area, but I know that we're not having school. And so as a result, we're not having Mike Leach today. There was talk we may do a Zoom call. And then there's talk that we might actually meet with him tomorrow, like a post-practice type deal. That has not been determined. So once we have that information, we'll share that with you over at genespage.com. I'm sure you'll be able to find it on Twitter and everywhere else once it's finally established. And many of you will be looking for that. Is a lot of the SEC coaches will have their weekly press conference today as it is game week. So if you don't see Mike Leach today, you'll know why. Hopefully, we'll have a chance to speak to him in person tomorrow. It's part of the deal. We did have some college football games over the weekend. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll kind of look ahead to what Arkansas brings to the table. A little bit later this week, we'll kind of sit down and preview the week. Should be a good week for the SEC. But again, the immediate concern right now is everybody's safety. There's just so many people out there that I know that, excuse me 1 second. I know there are a lot of people that, I read the things on social media, and maybe because of the fact that I live in Louisiana, in South Louisiana, maybe I've got a little more vantage point to this thing than other people do. There are a lot of people down there to say, well, I don't understand why they don't leave. And, there is some people that decide, you know what, I'm just going to stay here and see what I can, pillage or whatever. There is that element. But there are a lot of people down there that just simply have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to evacuate to. They don't have the resources. A lot of people down there in Metro New Orleans, especially those that live in some of the impoverished areas, don't have transportation. They depend on public transportation. And so there's just not a lot of places for these people to go. And so I apologize for that. I had to settle the dogs down. But, there's a lot of people out there that just don't have the resources that perhaps you or I do. And there's a lot of judgment. People say, well, I don't feel sorry for them because they stayed. Well, what if you don't have any choice? Or what if you're thinking, if I leave, people are going to come in here and take the things that I have, and you just decide to stay. And so I just ask, just for a little bit of grace there. There are a lot of people out there that just obviously maybe don't have the ability to flee like perhaps they would like to. And of course, there are some people too that are just like, I'm just going to ride this thing out. I'll be okay. It's probably a bad decision. I had some friends and friends of friends that died during Katrina and made poor decisions. But it's not always as cut and dry. Speaking of cut and dry, Bulldog Burger Company, cut and dry, best place to get a hamburger in the Golden Triangle and beyond. No doubt about it, a great restaurant quality hamburger available to you and your family. You can get a lot going on there. You can start out with the spring rolls, which I always recommend. I think it's great. It's a great way to get the meal started. Not too heavy, but also very tasty. Kind of get you going, get you excited about what's next. Those generous portions, whether it be hamburger and french fries or the BLT salad, the sweet heat chicken sandwich, or so much to choose from. Had some friends that shared over the weekend. They tried the Pimentology add bacon for the first time. Life changer. Absolutely is. It's great. Go by and have one today. And on your way out the door, get that chocolate shake to go. You can't beat it, man. A dessert to go that's next level right there. That's next level dining right there, being able to get your dessert to go. 3 locations now to serve you right here on University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, and Lake Harbor Drive in Ridgeland. That's the brand new one, doing exceptionally well. A lot of people have reached out and shared good reviews. Always happy to hear it. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. MEAT. All right, a lot to talk about today. I guess the first thing that I want to run through is let's look at some college football stuff over the weekend. And I want to talk a little bit about this IMG game too. It's insanity what's happened with this kind of stuff. It makes no sense to me, for sure. All right, so college football scores over the weekend. The first game, a Power 5 game. How cool is that? Illinois and Nebraska. It was very, very sloppy for much of the first half. Illinois wins 30-22. Belima out there making some things happen. And good for him. I think he fits better in the Big Ten. I think his style of play, his recruiting, strategy probably works a little bit better in the Big Ten. This is a guy that's been able to produce some linemen. They like to do that 3 tight end set. I just think that fits. That gave us some trouble too at times. But I think he fits up there, and I think this whole thing with Scott Frost is about to blow up on us. I think it already has. And what's interesting, too, you just kind of laugh to yourself and think, Scott Strickland dodged a bullet in that deal. Could you imagine the Bull Gators at the University of Florida if you had Scott Frost up there turning in this kind of stuff? Now, to be fair, Nebraska is not the program it once was. They used to have that walk-on program that basically enabled them to kind of skirt the 85 scholarship limit. And so that's part of the deal, right? Now you're not getting the same players you used to get. You could kind of Vanderbilt the thing a little bit. And then Nebraska is just not the brand that it once was. When they beat Florida, what was it, 95? It's early 90s, but or mid-90s. You're like, man, Nebraska is going to be doing incredible things. And they did. And Tom Osborne retired. And then that walk-on program went away. And they haven't been the same. And Scott Frost, he's had one winning season as a head football coach. That's the things that I look at. It's like we talk about these up-and-comers. You got to get a guy like a Dan Mullen on the way up. It's true, you do, but this has not gone well. Scott Frost, his first year at Central Florida, goes 6-6, and then they lose the bowl game. So they finish 6-7. The next year they go 13-0, and then they claim the national championship, if you recall. He gets to Nebraska 4-8, 5-7, and then 3-5, playing that Big Ten schedule last year, and they're 0-1 to start. So, is it fair to grade Scott Frost just on the fact he's had the one winning season because Nebraska has been a train wreck for a while? Well, I would say no initially, but we're in year 4, and so I think it's pretty safe to say, even though the AD has come out and said he's not coaching for his job, that he is. I mean, how many years do you give it? You can say, well, Steve, it was a COVID year last year. People got fired during the COVID year too. You may recall Jeremy Pruitt, Derek Mason, Will Muschamp. A lot of people got fired because of the COVID year. That didn't stop anybody from making a change, and again, we talk about Nebraska's not the job that it once was. Let's look back here. They beat Florida in 95. That was the Fiesta Bowl. And then, Tom Osborne put together a couple decent years after that. Obviously they 97, they go win the Orange Bowl, finish 13-0. If I'm not mistaken, Scott Frost is on that team. Then they bring in Frank Solich. And Frank, it's crazy how Frank just kind of disappeared. Everything is great. I mean, they lose to Ole Miss in the Independence Bowl because they went for it on their end of the field back in 2002. That probably should have been enough to fire him right then and there. But, listen, this guy had, 12-1, 10-2, 11-2, 10-3 seasons, and then boom, he's gone. And basically, not really a factor in major college football after that. So after Solich is fired, they bring in Bill Callahan. 4 years, 2 winning seasons, ends up 5-7. He's out. They bring in Bo Pelini. Bo and the Cat, right? And Bo puts together a pretty good stretch. 9-4, 10-4, 10-4, 9-4, 10-4, 9-4, 9-4. But it's like, hey, we want more. We got to make a change here. Bo Pelini's out. They bring in Mike Riley. 6-7, 9-4, 4-8. And then he's gone. So they bring in Scott Frost. And so it's like, they haven't had a 10-win season but once in the past decade, and that was in 2012. You start running the numbers here, and they've had as many losing seasons that they've had winning seasons this decade. I guess it may even be worse than that. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 losing seasons. So we're basically, this year will kind of determine what kind of decade it is. They've won one bowl game since 2014. So since 2009, they've only won 2 bowl games. Let that sink in for a second. Nebraska used to have, the greatest streak in the history of college football for consecutive bowl appearances. It was ridiculous. Started in 1969, didn't miss a bowl game until 2004. Year 1 under Bill Callahan. Put together a great streak. 2008 to 2016, they go to a bowl game every year. And they've lost 4 of the last 6. So it's not the job that it once was. And maybe Scott Frost isn't the coach we all thought he was. Or perhaps maybe the Nebraska job was a much more difficult job than he thought. They thought, he'll return the pride because he played there. He'll get some of the donors up and going again. It's not like it was in the 70s and 80s when Nebraska and Oklahoma kind of ruled that part of the country. If I remember correctly, maybe some of you old-timers can remember this, but there was an issue years ago when Nebraska ran the option, the triple option, is that the slope of their field was different than everybody else's and found they had to fix it. It's like because they were literally running downhill against you when they ran wide. They're coming downhill because the slope of the field was wrong. I'm 99% positive that's correct. But it's a different job. It is. And again, I think, Scott Strickland, sometimes it's best you not get what you want. We'll see what happens with he and Dan here in the weeks and years to come. But this whole thing with Nebraska going to be a disaster, I'm afraid. UCLA 44-10 winners over Hawaii. No surprise there. San Jose State 45-14 winners over Southern Utah. Fresno State, 45 winners over UConn, and then UTEP, 30-3 winners over New Mexico State. Now, we will have a pretty good stretch of college football this week, because this is technically week 1, right? That's what they call it. It's week 0 is stupid. So anyway, we get UAB and Jacksonville State Wednesday night, and then there is a host of games on Thursday. Thursday, Temple, Rutgers, Western Illinois, Ball State, Buffalo Wagner. I mean, it's like there's 20 games or more on Thursday. And then we get some Power 5 football on Friday. It'll be back up a second. We actually get some on Thursday night, Ohio State and Minnesota. That'll be a nice little Thursday night deal for us. And then Friday, you get some ACC play. North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest kicks off their season. Duke plays Charlotte. Colorado's in action. So you got a lot going on. So basically, if you can survive to Wednesday, you got college football every day. And then pretty soon, we'll be talking about pro football. It's a pretty good stretch here. So we've made it. I know that was a big thing. Everybody's like, we made it. It's a little different deal for us, I guess, because I think many of us are still basking in the glow of a national championship in college baseball. But we got to get ready because football's here. It's going to be here Saturday. It's crazy to think about that. A lot of people are worried about the weather. Listen, it's going to be gone, long gone by then for us. And you've got an amazing grounds crew here. They will have that field ready to go. put a lot of money into that field and that turf. That staff does a tremendous job. So will it be a little bit damp in spots around campus? Yeah, probably so. But, the main thing, we just need some sunshine between now and then, and then give that awards-winning ground crew just some time to work. They need the weather to cooperate with them a little bit. But, we'll be in good shape. I'm not worried about that aspect of it. I really think we're going to do a good job and have things ready to go. It's just amazing to me to think about, what's next. Once we get through the storm, and let me just kind of give you the breakdown here. Not supposed to rain again until next Wednesday. Once we get through tomorrow, there's a 90% chance of rain. We got partly sunny on Wednesday, and then sunny Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The high on Saturday, 88, with low of 61. Could be a nice night for football. And remember, we kick off at 3 p.m. Central. So if you're making your way to town, please plan to get here early. Have a good time. A little bit of an update, too. I've checked on this. And I've talked to a lot of people, and of course, nobody's willing to go on the record with this. But I know when the LSU stuff came out, people kind of panicked a little bit. So they're going to be checking, for vaccination status. And of course, LSU plays on the road this week. They're playing at UCLA, so they still got a week to figure this thing out. And then with all the stuff they're dealing with the hurricane, we'll see if that holds. But I talked to maybe half a dozen people here in the last 3 to 4 days. There's no talk about that at Mississippi State. There's absolutely no talk about Mississippi State requiring vaccination status for the ball game this weekend. And I've heard the same about Ole Miss. They're just, that's not going to happen. And so now that may change in the weeks ahead. But there are a lot of people, I think, that kind of panicked unnecessarily. And they take to the message boards like, oh, well, this happens, I'm canceling my tickets, and I want my money back or whatever. Relax. South Carolina has also come out and said they're not going to do vaccination status. And it's incredible, that didn't get nearly as much media play, and I joked about that on Twitter too. That didn't get nearly as much coverage as the LSU thing did. Now, granted, the LSU situation is a lot different. The Saints are having to, do a lot of things, and so I think a lot of that just kind of boils down to, some government control down there, and I'm not going to pass any judgment against that. But you need to be prepared that if you come to Davis Wade Stadium this weekend, it's probably going to be business as usual when it comes to entrance. Now, does that mean there won't be some bumps in the road, some kinks to work out, getting people in and out of the stadium? Yeah, it's first game for everybody, right? First game full capacity, 2 years. So, yeah, there's going to be some things that we have to deal with. Let me remind you of a couple things, too. We talk about leaving early. These event management people that do such a nice job for us, a lot of those people can't give you directions. Okay, I mean they don't work for the campus, they don't work for the university. They kind of work indirectly, through a contractor, and so they're doing the best they can. But a lot of those people, basically, their job is to make sure that you have your parking pass and you're going into the right lot. They're not ambassadors. They're not. It's not the welcome wagon or anything where they can tell you, oh yeah, you need to go over here and take this left, whatever. So let me encourage you, as always, kind of plan ahead and know where you're going to be, because if you're dependent on those people to help you, as nice as they are, they just aren't going to be able to tell you. They just don't know. And so that'll help tremendously too. Now, will the grass lots be open? I suspect so. But at the same time too, as we get closer to Friday, we'll have some greater clarity on that. Just don't know how well and how quickly it's all going to drain. So just, again, prepare ahead of time to kind of understand. I always recommend too, you can always go park in the research park and then take the shuttle. And there are places around town where you can park and ride. And so always something to think about. And the junction should be rocking. And so it's going to be the first time in a couple of years that we've had something that feels like normal a little bit for football. And again, if you want to wear a mask, then you absolutely should wear a mask. If you don't feel comfortable being around people that aren't wearing masks, then you should probably stay home. It is a decision that I think that you should make for yourself, and nobody should judge you for it. If you just don't feel comfortable doing it, if you think it's a risk to your health, then you absolutely should stay home. And you shouldn't feel bad about that. I know you want to be here, and we want you to be here. We also want you to be safe. I don't want to see any of you fine folks get sick, ever. I don't. I know it's part of life, but I'm eager, like you, to get all this behind us. But look ahead to Saturday and expect kind of a normal game day entrance situation And, we had some deals here a couple of years ago where things get backed up, and next thing you know, there's a lot of people that get involved, and we basically just start rolling people through. And so encourage you as always, plan ahead. Don't wait until 10 minutes before game time and then try to go rush the gates, and all of a sudden. Hey, Bulldog fans, do you find it more difficult than ever to provide a quality meal for your family? I bet you do. There's the hustle and bustle of the holiday season coming up. It's football season. Kids are back in school. There's more activities than ever. And sometimes you think to yourself, man, when do we have time to go shop and find a quality meal? Well, our friends at HelloFresh have partnered with us here at the Boneyard to make it easier than ever. It is America's #1 meal kit, and I'll be honest, I've tried them all. HelloFresh is not just a catchy slogan. They absolutely mean it. It's so simple. A great quality meal delivered right to your door. And if you're not a great cook, you can become a great cook just by following the HelloFresh instructions. They send you all the ingredients, they send you the recipe, and a very, very easy how to prepare this meal card. You'll be glad you did it. And because you listen to this show, we're going to save you a little money too. Go to HelloFresh.com/Boneyard14. That's right. HelloFresh.com/Boneyard14 to get up to 14 free meals. How cool is that? And guess what? We'll even throw in free shipping. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/Boneyard14. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
Hey, welcome to Everything Outdoors. Can I help you find anything?
Hey, yeah. Can you point us to the camping gear?
Sure, aisle 2.
Snowboarding?
Just bought a new Nissan Pathfinder. It's got intelligent 4x4, and we want to hit the backcountry.
Aisle 18.
And the boats?
Are you sure you can do all this?
Up to 6,000 pounds towing, we're good to go.
Oh, where's the scuba gear?
Return to rugged in the all-new 2022 Nissan Pathfinder. Available intelligent 4x4 cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions. Towing capability varies by configuration. See Nissan Owner's Manual for proper use.
You miss, half the first quarter because you couldn't get in. Just my personal opinion. It's up to you. You can always watch an injunction, I guess. But excited to see, what happens with all of that, to say the least. Let's take a little time and talk about this Bishop Sycamore IMG game. And some people would say, well, Steve, why is that important to us? Well, it's almost like, it almost feels fraudulent. So if you're unaware about this, IMG down in Bradenton, Florida, I have been there. Matter of fact, when they first opened, got a chance to go down there and cover a 7-on-7 tournament there, tour the facilities. It is incredible. It is absolutely incredible. And for years, they didn't want to let them play and be sanctioned by the state of Florida because it's basically an all-star team. They basically recruit from around the country, and you have a lot of players that go there and try to improve their stock. Former Mississippi State Bulldog Powers Warren is a product of IMG. So IMG is considered arguably the best high school football program in the country. And so they played a team called Bishop Sycamore over the weekend. Now, let me give you a little background, if I can, about Bishop Sycamore. Okay, so last season, which was their first season, and they're not sanctioned by the state of Ohio. They're from Ohio, but they are not a member of the Ohio High School Activities Association. They went 0-6. There was only one game the entire year that they scored more than once. They got beat 35-0, 33-6, 31-8, 35-8, 37-14, and then they played IMG Academy 56-6 down at Bradenton. Now, you'd say, well, Steve, that sounds just like an uneven matchup. Well, it is. But also, too, Bishop Sycamore is not even a real school. IMG is an actual place. I've been there. I can confirm it. Bishop Sycamore is an online charter school in the state of Ohio. They're in Columbus. And so they got picked somehow, some way, to play as part of this ESPN high school, kickoff challenge. And it was an absolute bloodletting. And it was completely a safety issue. Bishop Sycamore falsely represented themselves and said they had several Division I prospects on their roster to try to get into the game. They even mentioned that certain players were on their roster that weren't on their roster. And then they go play on ESPN. And they get absolutely destroyed. And now everybody's wondering how this happens. How does this happen to ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports? So they have partners that help kind of put these games together, right? There's always people that are out there. It's the Paragon Marketing Group that kind of find these marquee matchups that they think will turn dollars. What's interesting is that Bishop Sycamore played a game on Friday night and then took on IMG Academy on Sunday. 2 games in 3 days. How did anybody think that was a good idea? And there's some reports out there that, the Paragon Marketing Group said they would have canceled the game if they had known they had a game on Friday. Well, isn't that something that we should probably have handled prior to this? You mean to tell me you schedule a game and you're not aware of what else that team's going to do? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I think it's embarrassing for everybody involved, with the exception of IMG. IMG, absolutely rolling through this thing, and then they basically caught off the Dogs there in the second half, which was very, sportsmanlike of them. But how does this happen? I mean, it's like you begin to ask these questions. It's like, we have seen some really good games over the years. I get, South Panola played Hoover, I guess, several years ago. We just had MRA play Oakland, and Oakland got the better of them. But, MRA, one of the best teams in the country last year. So it made sense. Hey, this is, okay, people will watch this. And then you've got IMG out here against a team. Forget the fact that they played 2 games in 3 days. This is a team that went 0-6 last year and was outscored by almost 200 points on the year. You mean to tell me there's not another deserving team out there that could have played IMG, that was willing to play IMG, that could have benefited from having some national exposure? These people got absolutely duped. And there's many respects, I think they may have been a willing partner. I mean, how do you not do your due diligence? And they're getting a lot of national criticism for it, and rightfully so. But it's basically like, okay, we just got a bunch of guys together and just put a team together, basically a club team, and then we're going to go play this. And there had to be some money involved, right? Had to be. Had to be some type of money or some financial arrangement involved for the teams. So where does that go? I mean, there probably should be an investigation in all this. This is an absolute fraud. I don't know what your feelings are about this, but I just think, that at some point the adults in the room have to do what's best for everybody. And this wasn't it. Yeah, they're outscored 227-42 last year. It's just absurd. Absolutely absurd. Even like the commentators in the game were absolutely kind of going off and talking about, this is a safety issue and these guys can't compete. They don't have the depth. So what's next? It's like, what needs to happen kind of moving forward? Well, obviously there's got to be some checks and balances, because here's the thing. Nobody is blaming Paragon. They're blaming ESPN. It's your branding. It's your name. And just so you guys know, too, that game that they lost, they actually played the game on Thursday. And so the game that they lost was also a blowout. It's crazy you think about that. Crazy. They lose 38-0 against Archbishop Hoban of Akron on Thursday, and then turn around and play IMG Academy in Canton, Ohio, and get beat 58. So they've been outscored now. What is that, 96-0? Is that right? It's ridiculous. And the coaches involved in all this are ridiculous. Now look at their schedule, which is also interesting. They're going to play a team from Paintsville, Kentucky. They're going to go to Duncanville, Texas. They're going to go to St. Edwards in Lakewood. I guess it's in Ohio. They're going to go to DeMatha, which is a powerhouse there in Maryland. Play St. Thomas More in Connecticut. They're going to go all the way out to Liberty in Henderson, Nevada and play. And now all of a sudden it all makes sense to me. This is why you play those games, right? This is why you go out there and sacrifice the health and safety of these young men so you can go to Vegas You can go to Dallas. You can take all this night. Now, listen, I get it. I understand everybody's there's a startup somewhere, and everybody's got to take their beat and take their lumps, and you play a lot of games that are kind of, play for pay. How many times does some FCS team come to the SEC and just, take an absolute tail whipping just for a check? I get it. But this isn't even a real school. Not even sanctioned by the state of Ohio. And they're on the ESPN. They're on the national network. It's a shame. It's an absolute absurdity. So we'll see what happens with that. I suspect that you're going to see a lot of things change. That I don't think that this Bishop Sycamore story is going to go away. I think they've kind of been exposed. Listen, I don't know these people at all, but it may be a situation where these are all just good people trying to make a living. But if we're going to start doing that, think about what's happening in the state of Mississippi. If we can't have school, like if we go to online learning, we can't play football. Right? That's the rule. If you can't have class, you can't have football. And then here you've got a school that has no classrooms, but yet they're playing football. The rules should apply to everybody. And of course, obviously, if you're not part of the state association, the rules don't apply to you. But, there needs to be some type of parameters put in place, to ensure this is the kind of uniform for everybody. Look how many high school games in the state of Mississippi got canceled last week. And then these guys are playing on national television. This would make a lot of sense to me. Time to move on. Time for today's Top 10 list, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's closewithblair, BLAIR.com. Blair Chandler is a mortgage professional. It's not some fly-by-night company. He works with Fairway Mortgage, one of the top 5 mortgage lenders in the United States today. Blair in the top 1% nationally in loans closed. This is a guy that knows how to get things done. You may be thinking, you know what, Steve, I've always dreamed of home ownership. I've always wanted to get off the hamster wheel of rent. Now you can. And you know what? Maybe if you're not in a position at this point to do that, Blair can help you prepare. He can help you get your credit in a situation where you're ready to go. He can give you a plan. Great close rates, and he can do single-family residence. He can do investment properties. He can do secondary homes, maybe do a home improvement type loan. Anything that you need involving a mortgage, Blair can do it. Blair's also a Bulldog. I believe in doing business with Bulldogs whenever possible. I don't think there's any question. I'd much rather do business with Bulldogs when I can. Blair's a season ticket holder, has a place here. Guy that's been involved in Mississippi State Athletics for a long, long time. Go to closewithblair.com today. Mention to him that you heard the ad on Boneyard, and guess what he's going to do? He's going to pay for your appraisal. That's about a $300 value just by listening to the show. Just mention it to Blair. He'll give you the discount there. I think it's important, too, to understand what's happening with rates, what's happening with our country. There's never been a better time to get involved with all this. Let me give you Blair's phone number so you can reach out to him directly. Great friend of mine, known Blair a long time. I believe in doing business with people that have ethics, and that's Blair. 601-500-2344, 601-500-2344. But easy enough. Just remember, closewithblair.com. He'll work to get your loan approved, get you guys rolling. There's just not a better place to do business, closewithblair.com. All right, let's talk about some contemporary Christian music. I've had a lot of comments about this. I mentioned on the show that we were going to do this. My friend Ed Colthorpe reached out to me. We had a discussion. He had made a post on Facebook. I responded, and he goes, hey, how about a top 10 list of these guys? So we're going to do it. Top 10 list today of a band called DC Talk. Initially, DC Talk was DC is in Washington, D.C., because the 3 members of DC Talk all went to Liberty University there in Lynchburg. They eventually changed DC to stand for Decent Christian Talk. I'm a huge DC Talk fan. I'm still very sad that they don't have new material. What's interesting, they put out 5 albums, and then 4 of the 5 were nominated for Grammys. only the first one, the DC Talk, the self-titled original album, wasn't nominated for a Grammy. They've actually won a pair of Grammys in addition to that. Won a handful of Dove Awards. The Michael Tate, K-Max, Kevin, and Toby Mac have all went on to great solo careers, but I believe they were at their best when they were together. So, top 10 list today, DC Talk. This band means a lot to me. They were, I'll be honest with you guys, I guess in the early 2000s, there was a stretch there where this is like all I listened to. I mean, for months. Because I felt like I got fed from it. There was so much positivity, in the music, and there's some reassurance. Our country and our world was going through a big transition, of course, after, 9/11. And I just felt like it just kind of provided me a bit of comfort. One of the things I want to share with you guys, too, that, I don't talk a lot about faith. I don't know why. Maybe I don't. I apologize for that. We've had, the dogs in the house today because of all the, the rain and weather. So it's, there've been some, so it's a party around here for sure. So, but, I used to keep, $4 or $5 bills in my pocket and in my wallet, just because I spend a lot of time in North Baton Rouge. There's a lot of impoverished people up there and a lot of homeless people. And there'd be times I'd go to a gas station or just kind of be out there and see somebody at the bus stop. And I'd walk up sometimes and I'd say, hey, I'll give you $5 for 5 minutes. And I would just sit there and talk with them just about life and about things that were going on and do my best to kind of share the good news with them. I think it's important that people kind of understand that people care about them. And it was important to me to do that, and I was kind of compelled to do a lot of that because of listening to DC Talk. And so I share that with you, in hopes that perhaps it'll embolden you to do some other things. But here's the top 10 DC Talk list according to me. So, and I'll be honest with you, I wasn't a huge fan of all the rap stuff. The first 3 albums are primarily rap albums. The third album, I guess, Free at Last, is when things began to change a little bit. And then they signed a major record deal for album 4, and the production value of their musical career really changed. And so we'll go back to number 10 is one of the songs that really began to kind of change the direction of DC Talk, and it's a song called The Hard Way. Some people got to learn the hard way, and it's really more autobiographical. It's like you talk about all these other people, but it's really us. Many of us have to kind of learn, the hard way. And I was one of those people too, when I got clean and sober, I share with people I wasn't one of those addicts that saw the light. I had to feel the heat. And so this song kind of made sense to me. Number 9, going back a little bit, Love is a Verb. I guess that's really the only true rap song on here. That there's another song that I used to really like, and this is not in any way an indictment on the rest of the catalog, but that Kind of Girl, I think is the name of it. That was one that I thought Toby Mac did a really good rap piece on that one, but it didn't make the list. Number 8, off of the album Supernatural, which is probably an underappreciated studio album from DC Talk, the last studio album. It's My Friend So Long, and this was a song too that got a lot of airplay back on MTV, and people like that played music. And it's basically a message to a friend, like the 4th member of the band that didn't make it. It's like somebody that sold out and began to just basically stray from the path a little bit and went and chased the fortune and fame of real secular music. And so that's what it's about, My Friend So Long. The video is absolutely wild. It is absolutely wild. Number 7, one that is actually a deeper track off of the Jesus Freak album, it's Mind's Eye. And I think it probably should have been a single. I think it's a great track. I think you'll enjoy that one. It's got a really nice beat to it. Number 6, one that's a little more introspective, and I mentioned the whole thing about the $5 for 5 minutes. I was working on Plank Road in Baton Rouge, and I always made it a habit of locking my car. I mean, just because I'm not an idiot, So, faith can only take you so far. You got to do what you're supposed to do. And one night I got ready to leave, and there was a homeless person in the driver's seat of my car, asleep. I'd never seen this guy before, and I was pretty well acquainted with a lot of the homeless people that lived in the area that depended on public transportation and things of that nature. I'd never seen this guy before, And my initial thought was I wanted to call the police. And I got him out, and he basically begged me not to. And he kind of explained to me some of the things he was going through, and I told him no, I'm not going to call the police. And we just sat and visited for a while. And I remembered the look that he gave me. I remember the relief in his eyes when I told him I wasn't going to call the police, and I gave him his $5. And we just visited for a little while, and he left. And I got in the car to ride home, and I was still kind of shaken by the experience. And I'd never heard the song before, but it came on. And it meant a lot to me. And anytime I hear this song, I think about that homeless guy because he was just so out of place. He just didn't fit the scene. I still don't know where he came from. And then after I talked to him, it's almost like he just completely disappeared. Never saw him again. Never crossed paths with the guy again. It was almost like one of those moments. It was in my life. It was supposed to happen and teach me a little something. But it's a song called The Red Letters. And I get chills even thinking about this, and I'm thinking about that moment because at the times in my life, that could have been me. You know, I could be that guy that a lot of people are looking down upon and judging for how they look and how they act and the circumstances they have in life. And as the chorus of the Red Letters tells us, is that there is love in the red letters. And so I think it's important, to show as much love to one another as we can. And I'm a person, too, that I am still very much a work in progress. And, there are a lot of things in life that come along, and I get really bent out of shape about it, and I just want to go to war. And there are a lot of times I think back to those moments when, sometimes, showing grace and mercy and a little bit of civility is a better part of that. So there you go, Red Letters. I don't know that song is very well known, but it should be. If you don't know DC Talk, go listen to that thing today and think it'll do something for you. I actually broke the rules today and went with a cover for number 5. I absolutely love their version of this. And I love the harmonies because after they changed record labels and they got better funding, I guess. I think the quality of the music got a lot better, not just the production value, but I think they got better. Their version of In the Light. I love Michael Tate's part on this one too. Number 4, also off the Jesus Freak album, is What If I Stumble, and it's a good introspective song. It's like we're all still, born of a fallen nature, and we're all going to make mistakes. And it's kind of what that one's about. I think sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves, we have to, act a certain way and be a certain way. It's almost like we have to, it's almost like it's a gift that we're not really accepting. We think we can earn it through works, and that's just not the reality of life. Number 3, this was probably their biggest commercial hit on the radio. I want to say it was number 16. I think if I remember this correctly from my numbers and my research, number 16 on the Billboard 200 chart. And it's Between You and Me. And it was on Top 40 radio everywhere. Just Between You and Me, I Got Something to Say. And I think a lot of people mistook that to be a relationship song, and it wasn't. It's very much a religious song. So the number 2 song on my list is probably number 1 on most people's list. And I could have easily gone with this one at number 1, but there's a song that's number 1 that means a little more to me. But it's a title track off the Jesus Freak album. It's a really in-your-face, unabashed, this is who I am, this is what I believe, and I'm not going to be ashamed of it. What will people think when they hear that I'm a Jesus freak? That's the chorus of that song. And that song really changed the trajectory of their career. I think there were a lot of people before that just kind of saw them as a little bit of a novelty act, and I think that album is the best DC Talk album, but I think also, too, that song really empowered people, to feel like, it's kind of okay to kind of wear your faith on your sleeve. And so that's number 2 for me, and it's a rockin' tune, man. It really gets you going. It's one of those things, too. It's like you go back and listen to that earlier stuff, like off New Thing and all that stuff. It's just... It's quite the departure, and I really think towards the end of the DC Talk experience, Kevin's musical influence became a bigger part of DC Talk, and I think that's where that one really kind of came from. Kevin was actually not originally in the group; it was Michael and Toby, because they were both rap fans, and Kevin was in a Christian rock band, and that he left and moved in with Michael Tate, and then the rest is history. But number 1 for me is a song called Consume Me. You Consume Me is the chorus there, but I love the video, and I just love the peaceful nature of this song. It's there are a lot of songs out there that you hear, and it's like even if you don't know the words, it just seems so familiar to you. And that's the one for me, for the DC Talk catalog. Is when I hear "Consume Me," it just kind of reminds me too that there's something bigger out there than just life and paying mortgages and raising kids and all that sort of stuff, and it's, just living to pay bills. There's a lot more to it than that. And so, again, we like to do a wide variety of tunes on this show, and this DC Talk thing was very, very important and special to me, and a little surprised that I hadn't done it. And I told you guys too on Wednesday that we're gonna rock in a different direction on Wednesday. It's gonna be, let's just say it's very much a secular band come Wednesday. But I wanted to get this one out just because I think there are a lot of people I heard listen to the show that maybe were fans of DC Talk. And Ed said, "Hey, let's do it." And I said, "You know what, Ed? I can absolutely do a top 10 DC Talk list with my eyes closed." But to me, the best two albums of their catalog are the last two. Now, they've done a couple of reunion shows every now and again, and they keep talking about maybe getting back together and doing a tour. They were supposed to tour into 2020, and then the world changed. They did a couple of cruise things, I guess in 17 and 18, and then they say, "Hey, the fans were so excited about it. Let's get back together and do some things." They haven't done that. Now, I want to share with you guys too. There are a lot of huge Toby Mac fans out there. I mean, huge, and that debut solo album, Momentum, is something special. I mean, it really, really is. And I like the K-Mac's first album. To me, the best two solo albums are the Michael Tate solo albums. He put the band together, called him Tate, before he joined Newsboys. And Tate, Empty, and then Lose This Life. They're both great. I think Alibis is probably my favorite track off that first album. And then Lose This Life. But, Michael Tate is a different guy. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that, even politically, he gets involved with a lot of things. A lot of people should say that he shouldn't, but he does, and I respect it. I think DC Talk is one of the most influential contemporary Christian artists of all time, and many people have said that they are the most successful overtly Christian band in the history of music, and there's probably some truth to that. I remember when David and the Giants had a hit in the late 80s. I think they were the first contemporary Christian band to actually have a hit on the top 40 radio charts. And then DC Talk took things to a different level. And there are a lot of people out there, Amy Grant's had some success, and there are a lot of these people too that, they write things that can be considered secular, of course, that get radio play. And that's where I think kind of what happens with DC Talk is, they became more of a serious music act, and it enabled them to share their message with a broader audience. And there are a lot of people, I think, that kind of get hamstrung into, into labels and things like that. And I think DC Talk was just above those things. I think they were a band that everybody could enjoy, no matter your religious affiliation and no matter your feelings about that sort of stuff. And so enjoy DC Talk today. I've enjoyed listening to them the last couple of days and kind of preparing, for this list. And it's kind of a trip down memory lane in many respects. You go back and listen to all that stuff, and it's like, man, I remember where I was when this song meant so much to me. And I remember this person or that person or this experience. And that's the best thing about music is it's like a time machine. It can take you to different points in your life. And, and I mentioned the whole thing about, the secular appeal. It's like when the band Flyleaf came out. And I don't know if you know much about Flyleaf. Lacey Sturm, who is the scream queen. I love Lacey Sturm. Absolutely love her. She is a phenomenal artist. And her work with Flyleaf was incredible. And, I've read some people's comments online that are very, very sad. They said, I love this song until I found out it was about God. And I think that says a lot about where we are as a society, that we can't appreciate someone's talent because we don't always appreciate their message. And I think when people get out and share who they really are, it should be applauded, even if I don't agree with, their lifestyle. It's just, I'm a live and let live person, but it's really kind of sad that, that I'd read the song, All Around Me from Flyleaf. People said, I used to love this until I found out that it was a Christian song. And I think you're exactly the person that needs to be listening to that. But anyway, I don't want to preach. We're not going to pass around an offering plate or anything. I'm not going to hum Just As I Am or anything like that. We're not going to have an altar call. But I just wanted to share that today, a little bit more of me, but also to Ed. Thanks so much for the suggestion. If you guys have an idea for the top 10 list, reach out, let me know. I'm on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. hit me up, let me know. I may just use your list. And we've got a bunch in reserve, and we try to work through those things as we go. But we can always use fresh ideas, and this is one from Ed that wasn't on the list. Now it is. Now it is. And I've had some people reach out and say, hey, Steve, if you like this band, you should listen to this band. And I love learning new bands. And I love learning what you guys are into, too. Because, like, there's so many bands out there that, because it's so easy to make a record these days, it's kind of watered down at times. And so when you guys hear something great and you share it with me, I consider it an honor and a favor. Somebody shared with me, I guess my friend Blake D shared with me a while back, a band called the Georgia Thunderbolts. And I absolutely dig those guys. They've got an EP that is crazy. And then somebody hit me up on Twitter and said, hey, the new Georgia Thunderbolts, their debut album is coming out. Are you with it? And I absolutely am. And I want to thank Blake for turning me on to him. Blake is our friend, too. You know, Blake has been a Boneyard listener for a while, and I've met Blake. He and I went to Blackstone Cherry Show together about a year or so ago, if not longer, I guess. And, he was with Blacktop Ridge playing drums for them and is back home, not chasing that anymore, but still playing some drums around here. So if you hear that Blake is sitting in with somebody, I know he played at Romy's Grocery, I think, here this past weekend. Get out and go support him. He's also a Bulldog, too, and a great drummer. So there you go. There's your top 10 list. Next segment of the show brought to you by CampusBookmart.net, longtime sponsors of this show. I was down there recently and had a chance to go visit with them, and our friend Pam Minyard is now working there, which is wonderful. I think she is a perfect fit for the Campus Bookmart crew. Love everybody down there. There's just so many good people that work there. You know, Stan the Man, Miss Kathy Brown, the lovely, talented Susie, everybody down in the basement holding it down. It's just, there's such a good group there. And that's one of the things that I love is doing business with people where there is like, there's some consistency, with the level of service. I know what I'm going to get when I go on Campus Bookmart. I know what I'm going to get. I know that I'm going to get a great product at a great price. I'm going to get great service. And you know what? Sometimes in retail things go wrong. And I've never had a situation, it's been very rare that something's gone wrong, but they fix it immediately. It's not one of these situations, a lot of people, it's like, oh, well, I don't know. No. These guys know what customer service is all about. Go check them out today. If you can't get there, visit them online at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll save you a little cash. We'll give you a promo code. It's BSR. That BSR stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. We've even had people use it on their textbooks. How cool is that, right? So that gets you free shipping on all orders over $50. Any order less than $50, absolutely incomplete. CampusBookmart.net, promo code BSR. Let's talk Arkansas. I don't know what's going on. Listen, Arkansas's got some great coordinators. They really do. And there are a lot of people that have all this hype about Arkansas. I don't think they're going to be very good. I do think, we've got to go up there and play them at their place. And that there was a time there we had never won a game in Arkansas, in the state of Arkansas. Well, that's changed. And we've won 7 of 9 against Arkansas. I don't know if you guys remember. Dak Prescott never lost a game to the University of Arkansas, home or away. Probably didn't know that. It's true. Dak Prescott, as a member of the Mississippi State Bulldogs, never suffered defeat against the University of Arkansas. Now, 16 was a bit of an anomaly. You remember, that's the Peter Sermon years. We had absolutely dominated them, and then they come in here, and we don't know how to coach defense, and so they didn't punt the entire game. But it's 58-42. You'd think you put up 42 points, you win the ball game. And when you never get a stop, and they ran the counter tray against us, and we never adjusted to it. They had numbers to the left over and over and over again. And you would think at some point we'd adjust. We never did. Then we go up there in 17, Nick Fitzgerald, Reggie Todd, get it going. We win 28-21. Had to come from behind there. And I remember how gleeful the Arkansas media was when they were ahead in that ball game. And, of course, we come back to win the game. Dedrick Thomas with that great diving catch at the pylon with the game winner. And then they came to Starkville in 18, and we beat them and Chad Morris 52-6. And you remember there were some Arkansas players trying to get the phone numbers or Instagram accounts of our cheerleaders. And so that made national news. Hey, it's good work if you can get it, I guess. But 52-6. And then we go to Fayetteville in 19. And, there were so many people, too. Like in the beginning of the year, they're like, oh, Arkansas is going to beat Mississippi State. And Joe Moorhead went up there and beat them 54-24. And guys, it could have been about 80. I mean, this game was not competitive at all. And Joe showed them mercy. And I don't know what it was. You know, Chad Morris had beaten Joe on the recruiting trail. But for some reason, when they got together, Chad Morris brought out the best in Joe Moorhead. Joe absolutely destroyed Arkansas when he was here. And you say, hey, you know what? The guy won 2 Egg Bowls and went to 2 bowl games. Lost them both, but we did. But, man, he absolutely made Arkansas feel like a redheaded stepchild. I mean, it was unbelievable how Joe dominated Arkansas. And I remember walking off that field in Fayetteville that day. And, like, you know, some Mississippi State administrators are like, you know, we win by 30, and Joe didn't even play hard in the fourth. You know, I mean, it was almost like playing Arkansas Tech or something. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. Now, last year they beat us 21-14. Now, I'm going to tell you this, too, and I don't care what anybody says in the Arkansas media. We gave the game away last year. We absolutely gave the game away. I'm going to go back and look at that before we get into kind of looking ahead to this year. We gave the game away. Now, anybody that was at the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We gave them the game. Now, it's the first time that KJ Costello apparently had seen a drop 8, and so it mattered because he looked completely clueless on how to attack that. Now, you can say, well, you know, Steve, the coaching staff's got to get him ready. You know, I think there's also this, you know, we come off the LSU win, right? We're feeling so great about life. We're thinking, oh, well, you know, we've steamrolled Arkansas the last couple of years. We'll destroy them. So I think we were a little bit overconfident. But KJ absolutely struggles in this ball game. And you may recall the very first pick of the game, the very first play, scoring play, is we throw a pick 6 to Greg Brooks, former Mississippi State commitment Greg Brooks, and we basically we might as well just walk out there and hand him the football. It was horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. But it's 7-0, you think, okay, we're okay. You know, first drive of the game, we come out there, we'll complete to 12, and then we'll complete to 13, and Cowan runs for 7. And this is a game, too. You remember when Cowan got the concussion, had to come out of the game. And then so we're in Arkansas territory, and it's 1st and 10 at their 34. We're about to go in and score. And then we throw a pick 6. So we get the ball back, and what do? We drive down again, right? So, you know, Dylan runs for 3, and we're complete to Wally for 16. We come back to Dylan for 4. Then we go to Wally, and then we go for it on 4th and 3 at the Arkansas 49. And a lot of people at the time were thinking, oh, my goodness, why are we doing this? Well, we go for it, and Dylan gets it for us because we were there to win, right? And so then, then we're complete. Next thing you know, it's a 4th and 2 again. We go for it again. Dylan Johnson goes for 9 yards. We're basically bullying these guys. Then we're complete to Wally. Marks gets a couple nice gains, and then, 1st and 15 there at the Arkansas 17, and then we hit Javonte Payton for the touchdown. It's a 7-7 ball game. I think at this point everybody's like, hey, you know what, we're good. We're good. We had 2 drives. We went down the field like a knife through butter. And outside of the pick there, it should have been a 14-0 ball game. They couldn't stop us. Arkansas's very first drive, they go 3 and out. We're thinking, okay, we're good. We got momentum here. Let's get ready to go. We can pick up a first down, and the next thing you know, we get out there near midfield, and we couldn't do anything with it. We get up a big sack on 2nd and 5. We're at the Arkansas 40, I guess, and we get sacked and get the intentional grounding call, puts us behind the chains. We end up having to punt down to inside the 10. So again, we're thinking, we're okay here. We're all right. We'll find a way. Arkansas puts together a pretty good drive here, and we force a turnover. They get inside. It's 1st and goal, and they're running behind Rakeem Boyd, and the defense forces a fumble. KJ Jefferson on 4th and goal, they decide to go for it rather than kick the field goal. Marquis Spencer forces the fumble. KJ Jefferson picks it up. London Kraft picks it up at the 3. So, again, They get their first sustained drive, but it's all nickel and dime stuff. I mean, they weren't getting big chunk plays or anything. They had the one big play, I guess, to Devion Warren there. But, yeah, they get inside there, and we bow up, and defensively we make a stop. And, again, we're thinking, we're okay. And then the next thing you know, KJ just continues to disintegrate right before our eyes. We do get a first down on the second drive, and then it's like nothing happens the rest of the way. It's like we just couldn't figure it out. Arkansas comes right back their next drive and scores to take a 14-7 lead. We go 3 and out, and again, offensive line play wasn't very good. And at this point, we're all kind of wondering, okay, what's going on with Colin Hill, right? Defensively, we played pretty well the next drive. They do hit the big pass to Devion Warren again, but we find a way to get out of it. We get get a punt from them, a chance to go down and get a drive, and we start piecing some things together, right? We're complete to Dillon for 10, Malik Heath for 12. We get out in their midfield, and then we throw a pick. Arkansas then runs the clock out. They end up punting, I guess. And defense, again, played well for us there. And so we're down 14-7 at the half, and you look at this and you think, this game is closer than it should be. And to give Arkansas some credit, they did a really good job, figuring some things out there in that second quarter. Well, that first drive of the second half, they came right down there and basically just nickel and dimed us to death and went right into the end zone to score to make it a 21-7 ball game. And at this point, Cowan's not in there. KJ's being ineffective, and it's just like, what are we going to do? How are we going to figure this thing out? We got to fight from behind here, and we got to get some stops. We put together a really good drive here and drive right down the field, and then Dylan Johnson scores, and again, it's a 4th and goal. I mean, 4th and 1 at the 6, and he scores. It's a 21-14 game, and again, we're thinking, okay, we're good. We just need to get a stop. Well, we get a stop. They give not 3 and out, but pretty short drive there. They get one first down, and they punt it. And then, we got it at our own 23. And then, we're going to have the ball to open the 4th there within a score. And we're driving down there. We get down inside Arkansas territory, and then what do? We throw another pick. Joe Fauché, his second one of the day. There's your tying score going back the other way. A good job again by the defense to kind of keep us in the ball game. KJ gets it back, and it's a 3 and out. We get 2 yards on the drive. Absolutely horrendous. All right, so then craziness ensues. Arkansas gets it back. We sack Arkansas for 2 yards, and then they run Devion Warren on the little end-around play, and then we knock it loose. Aaron Brule recovers at their 21. Okay, here it is. Okay, good. This is our chance to get back in there and tie it, and we feel like if we could ever get even, we're good. Well, that's not what happens. Dylan Johnson runs for a yard, then we're complete to DJ to make it a 3rd and 2. We run DJ, get blown up, and then we throw a bad pass at the Arkansas 13 to Cameron Gardner, and it's incomplete. Maybe we should have kicked a field goal there. I don't know. But we blew it. We had it in their red zone basically the entire drive and couldn't cash it in. KJ just couldn't get it done. Again, the defense stands tall. We get a 3 and out. We get the ball at the 50, and then Jaden breaks it for 20. Now we're at the Arkansas 30. Okay, here we go, right? Well, we start out with a pre-snap penalty. Then we're complete on 3rd down, and now we're all the way down to the Arkansas 15. Let's go, right? Fix to tie this thing up. Marks runs for 3, then we're incomplete to Peyton. We run for 5 to bring up a 4th and 2. We bring Marks off right side. They blow us up for a loss of 2. We don't score again. Back-to-back trips at our Arkansas red zone. We don't score. Defense stands tall again. We get a 3 and out. We get the ball. Jaden Wally recovered it, and we fumble, and they recovered the fumble. They got a chance to put us away. They don't. We end up getting the ball back with 2:10 to go. Less than a minute to go, and we hit a couple passes down the field, and that's the end of the game. And so I say all that to say this is like, we didn't play football. It's like you look at all these opportunities and you look, defensively, we played outstanding. You give up 14 points in an SEC game, you got a good chance to win. But when you throw a pick six and you have two promising drives ended by interceptions, both of them bad reads, you have a fumble on a punt return, you get two opportunities, you get turnovers, and you're inside their 30-yard line, and you come up with 0 points, you're going to lose the ball game. It's as simple as that, and we did. But we blew it. It wasn't like Arkansas came in here and beat us. We blew it. Now, looking at these numbers, too, as bad as KJ's day was, 313. Felipe Franks, 212. 212. When you look at this stuff, it just kind of blows your mind a little bit. You begin to ask yourself, okay, we had 24 first downs. They had 17. We ran for 87 yards. And you say, oh, that's not enough, Steve. Excuse me, I'm incorrect there. We ran for 100 yards. No, I guess the net was 87. Their net, 63 on 37 attempts. We held them 1.7 yards per carry. So we outrush them, we outpass them. We just don't outscore them. We put up 400 yards of offense. They put up 275. And it kind of helps when you get a pick six there. So, again, as bad as it was, we still should have won the game. So let's look ahead to Arkansas this year. No graduate transfer at quarterback. It's the KJ Jefferson time. Now, I do think that Kendall Briles will be able to do some interesting things with him, especially with his own read stuff. KJ's a guy from North Panola High School. Mississippi State recruited him. He didn't want to be part of a two-quarterback class. He went to Arkansas, and they did a great job recruiting him. They're going to have 5 starting offensive linemen that will be back, and that's Sam Pittman's pedigree. A lot of people tell me he's a better O-line recruiter than he is a coach. But he does a good job developing guys, but he's not, a guy that can take, maybe, a 2- and 3-star junkyard dog type and put him in the National Football League. But he's a guy that, does a really good job in the living room, and good for Sam. But it's going to be a different team, with KJ. And I'm eager to see what Briles does with him because, passing is not really his forte. He's a guy, it kind of reminds me a little bit of a bigger version of Chris Ralph. And they went 3-7 last year. 3-7. Now, COVID got them a lot last year. Even Sam Pittman missed some time. But they weren't a great team last year. And even with Felipe Franks, it's one of those things that kind of blows your mind how we lost this ball game. Now, running football, they ought to be pretty good. Should be. Traylon Smith last year was their leading guy, 710 yards, 5 touchdowns. They got some dudes. I mean, they should be able to go. So we'll see. Because I think they're going to be a lot closer to what Dan Mullen once was than what Chad Morris wanted to be. And I don't necessarily mean that because of the results, but I mean just kind of offensively. I don't think they're going to throw it around quite as much. I think they're going to run a lot of zone read stuff. They can kind of lull you to sleep a little bit and try to pound you inside. It'll be interesting to see kind of how people defend them. KJ's a load too, man. 6'4", 235 pounds, big guy. Now here's the deal. There's not a lot around him as far as depth. So we'll see how things go. They had a couple guys hit the portal last year. Mike Woods, their best receiver last year, in my mind, is gone to Oklahoma. They replace him with Jacqueline Crawford from Oklahoma. We'll see how that goes. And a lot of people talk about Hudson Henry. He's not in any way similar to his brother Hunter. They may have the same parents, but not the same level of player. Trey Knox, really good player for them too. But we'll see. Devion Warren was a guy that made some plays against us, which is kind of average against the rest of the league. So we'll see. Defensively, I'm a Barry Odom fan. I told you guys that before. He was actually a candidate for the Mississippi State job. I don't know if you knew that. He was a guy that, that was mentioned. I don't know if it was on his side, on our side, but he was a guy when they were getting ready to get out of there at Missouri that his name was mentioned to me. So Odom did a great job last year putting a system together, but they really wore down over the end of the year. That's one of those things you look at in hindsight. You begin to kind of wonder, what they're going to have. Grant Morgan and Bumper Poole, who probably has the best name of all college football, are back. Those guys can play a little bit. They've got a secondary that it probably is going to be one of the better secondaries in the league. We'll kind of see how things progress with them. Maybe not so much up front, but we'll see. We'll see how things progress with them. Looking at Arkansas too. Let me look at their football schedule here from last year and this year, because I think it's important. Because it's amazing to me. We go 4-7 last year, and we're absolute trash. And then Kentucky and Arkansas don't do much either, and everybody loves them. I don't understand that at all. But whatever. That's the thing. It's almost like these preseason lists don't mean anything, because they don't. I know other people are like, oh my gosh, we don't get any respect. Well, I'd rather just win the games. It doesn't really matter to me what the prognosticators say. How many people had us winning the College World Series last year? All right, so looking at last year's schedule for them, again, it's a 10-game SEC schedule like the rest of us. It's not what it all that a lot of people expect it to be, I guess, in a year one. And they actually played Georgia really well early on. They lose 37-10, and of course they come down here and we gift them a ball game. Well, then they go to Auburn, and if you remember, they should have beat Auburn. They had that Bo Nix thing that was the illegal pass, and then they basically gifted Auburn the game, allowed them to attempt a field goal. They kick and make it 30-28. And I think through the first 3 weeks, I think we all thought, you know what? Sam's got these guys ready to play. From a culture standpoint, he's kind of turned the corner with them. He's made them believe they can win. Well, then they win in Fayetteville against Ole Miss, 33-28. I don't know if anybody really expected that. I can't remember if I picked that or not. But, Arkansas has done a good job against Ole Miss in Arkansas. Not so much in Oxford, but they have found a way to win that game. Looking at the box score, too, real quickly from that game. Seems like I remember Matt Corral having a really, really tough day up there. Let's see here. Yeah. 20 of 38, a couple touchdowns, took a couple of sacks. Also threw some picks, too. Had a fumble. Wasn't a great day. Then they lose at A&M 42-31, a competitive game. Then they beat Tennessee. They get absolutely destroyed at Florida 63-35. They lose LSU 27-24, and that was a big win for Ed Orgeron and his group back then because they were really struggling. Then they lose at Mizzou 50-48. If you remember, if I'm not mistaken, both teams scored like in the last 2 minutes. And then they lose to Alabama 52-3. And then they were supposed to play in the, I guess it's a Texas Bowl against TCU, and that ends up being canceled. So despite the fact they had a 3-7 record, there just weren't many games you look at in hindsight and say, oh, they were just completely out of it. I mean, outside of Alabama and Florida, teams really struggled to really put them out, to knock them out. So they're going to play hard. I just don't know if they have the talent that a lot of people want to believe they do. Now, they will open up with Rice. That's a win. Then they host Texas. And I don't we'll pick that as we get a little bit closer. I don't really know what to expect in that ball game. What's going to happen, with Texas this year. Now, you would think from a talent standpoint, Texas should be able to out-athlete Arkansas. But we'll see. That game's in Fayetteville. I suspect that'll be a huge crowd, too. Then they'll get Georgia Southern. But, let's call it, to be conservative, let's call that a win for Texas. Just because I think Texas, on paper, should be the better team. And then let's say Arkansas beats Georgia Southern. So they're 2-1 heading to Arlington to take on A&M. That's been a really fun game there in Jerry World. But I think A&M takes that, makes them 2-2. Then they're on the road at Georgia. That's a loss, 2-3. Then they're on the road at Ole Miss. I think that's a loss, too. I think Matt Corral will really bear down and be ready to go. That's 2-4. They host Auburn, and who knows what to expect from Auburn this year. Who knows? Let's give Arkansas the win at home. That's 3. Then they beat UAB, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Then the last 4 games will define their season. They probably got to go at least 2-2, and they've got to go 2 LSU and 2 Alabama. That's tough. So that game at home against us, and then the game at the end of the year against Missouri, those are games they got to win. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to go ahead and give you a hot take now. Arkansas they're going to lose the last 4 games.
and they're going to lose all 4 of them. They're going to lose to State, at LSU, at Alabama, and then they're going to limp back home for Senior Day. And Missouri, who I think will be potentially playing for a decent bowl spot, will get them. I may regret saying that later on, because you never know health-wise how things are going to look. I think Arkansas is going to struggle this year. Now, I don't think they're going to run away from anybody. I don't think they're going to be scared to play. I expect those guys to compete. I think it's all going to boil down to, can KJ Jefferson be the guy? It's that simple. There are a lot of people that recruited him, and again, Arkansas did a great job getting him. But it all boils down to him. Defensively, they were not a great defense last year, even though schematically they were pretty good. And really, Barry Odom is the one that kind of turned our season around negatively. It's just like once they put drop 8 and they saw how we struggled, that's pretty much all we saw the rest of the year. So they got great coordinators. They got, good recruiters on staff. But I still feel like in many respects, Sam was kind of a stopgap guy. Now, obviously, nobody can really judge harshly for last year, but I really thought those guys played hard for him. They'll play hard for him again this year. I just don't know if they have the talent to really compete. And I think over the course of the season, I think depth is going to be a real issue for you. So that's how I see Arkansas. And I look forward to seeing those guys play here in the weeks to come. I really think that Arkansas is a team that that's a game we need to find. We got to find a way to win that thing. We really do. I think Zach Arnett will have a scheme ready to go. Because you got to think the 3-3-5. When we ran it with Joe Lee, we were going up against a lot of fullbacks and 2 tight sets, and we just kind of out-athleted people because we had more speed on the field. Well, since people have gone to the spread, Rocky Long kind of innovated the scheme to kind of make it more competitive against these spread offenses. And so, I think Zach Arnett will be 100% prepared to go when we play Arkansas. Absolutely. Without question. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that we'll be ready to go defensively. Now, where will we be offensively? Because we're going to see a drop 8 against them, so which probably means a lower scoring game. So it's may boil down to turnovers. But, again, we got a lot of football to play between now and then. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by Portico. I love the place. You will too. I've told you guys before, if I was moving to Starkville now, Portico is where I would move just because of the convenience to be so close to campus. And you're on the backside of campus, so you're on the quiet side. You're out there by neighborhood market. It's very easy to get to. You come off of 82 on the 12, like going towards campus. The very first right is Pat Station Road. That'll take you across Old West Point Road, and boom, there's Portico. Great place. Great place to live. You get a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, 4-bedroom, 4-bath house. All the amenities you're looking for. Got that great walking trail out there. It's an exciting time, but also, too, it's just, being that close to campus makes life so much easier. If you're a Bulldog fan, you think, what? It'd be so great to be able to live in Starkville and then be able to go to all the games at Duty Noble Field. Well, how easy is that? It's a mile away. If you're looking for your game day retreat, so we just want a place up there that we can meet with our family. Maybe it's an investment property for you for Airbnb. How neat is it to be 1.1 miles away from campus? It's wonderful. Give our friend Brooks Bryan a call. Brooks is part of the development group that has brought this wonderful residential development to Starkville. Brooks will answer all your questions. And I've had some of you guys reach out and say, Steve, we thought about retiring in Starkville. We want to be close. We don't want to be, too close to being all the hustle and bustle. Portico is absolutely the way to go. Give Brooks a call today. He'll fill you in. 601-416-8075. 601-416-8075. Brooks Bryan, former Diamond Dog. He's a guy that loves Starkville, loves Mississippi State. He'll do you right. Again, do business with Bulldogs whenever you can. All right, I have enjoyed doing this last segment of the show. We changed it up because I like to learn more about Mississippi State athletics history. I like to share that information with you. And so what I'm about to talk about today is a gentleman that I don't know that I've ever done any research on before today. Just don't think I ever have. It's like you begin to think about, the expanses of our athletic tradition, and there's a lot of names out there. A lot of names we kind of take for granted. But this is one that I've never, ever, 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 ever done any research on, and it's a fascinating story. So we're going today with and I had to look up even how to pronounce the name, right? But it's Chuck Jalatka out of Chicago, Illinois. So Chuck played at Mississippi State and had a remarkable life thereafter. And it's Mississippi State obviously is a great place that can lead you to a lot of great things. But, Chuck was a guy, I don't know how he got to Mississippi State. I've researched that and haven't been able to find any stories, even in obituaries and things like that. But he was born in Chicago, January 28th, 1914, found his way to Mississippi State, and then was the first Bulldog drafted in the National Football League draft. Think about that for a second. That's a pretty nice accomplishment, right? So the NFL draft began in 1936. There was not a player taken from any Mississippi school in the 1936 draft. In 1937, Mississippi State and Ole Miss both had their very first players selected. Ole Miss had Jim Buster Poole from Gloucester, Mississippi. He was taken in the 7th round by the New York Giants, and Chuck was taken in the 10th round by the Giants. So how ironic is it that both players from Mississippi, from Mississippi schools, end up with the Giants? And both played to end. It's interesting, too, that how all this kind of comes to be. But so Chuck played 4 years with the Giants, and then World War II became a very serious thing. And so after the 1940 season, Chuck enters the military and goes and fights in World War II. I've tried to look and see, if it was a draft situation, and I don't. Based on what I've learned about the draft, I think he was actually, because of the fact of his age, it was probably a voluntary enlistment, which makes it even all the more honorable. But what's interesting, too, is he married when he was in New York. Of course, being a New York Giant was, the biggest thing in the world back in New Jersey and places like that. But he married a lady by the name of Lorraine Foland, who was originally from Kansas. And so she moved to New York City as a child and grew up and married Chuck. And she was a huge New York Giants fan. So it's very, fitting that she married a Giant. And then after the war ended, they moved back to his native Chicago. And she attended the Art Institute of Chicago and became an artist and was fairly acclaimed. And then eventually they moved back, to New Jersey, if my research is correct. But I think it's interesting, too, that, Chuck is a guy, too, that shows up at Mississippi State from Chicago and then ends up playing with the New York Giants, believed to have volunteered for military service, and then has this incredible life afterwards. It's incredible to think about the people that have crossed our path a little bit. And then, he ends up, I'm going to read you to some of the things that I found, too. He was part of the 1938 NFL National League Championship for the Giants. So he won, obviously we had some success there in pro football. But before turning pro, this is from his obituary, he played for Mississippi State University, where he graduated in 1937. He was a member of the NFL Alumni Association and the Mississippi State M Club. After his football days, Mr. Galatka and they misspelled his name, unfortunately, was a civil engineer with Sargent and Lundy Engineers in Chicago, retired after 30 years with the company. How many people work for 30 years for the same company? During World War II, he was an Army Air Corps fighter pilot serving in the Pacific Theater. That's pretty cool, right? And achieved the rank of major. Born in Chicago, he lived there and resided in Middleton for 3 years. And then we, kind of get to the other stuff. But I just think, it's one of those things, too. It's like you never know when opportunity is going to come along. And then we end up getting, a fighter pilot guy that won a championship with the Giants that's part of our family. And don't know anything about him. And happy to hear that he was part of the M Club and still connected to Mississippi State even later in life. But just want to share a little bit with you today because I think it's important, too, that we know our history. And so, Chuck, thanks for your contributions to Mississippi State athletics, we had some good times, right? It's like I think about all these people that have come, maybe we weren't always what we wanted to be. And they came here anyway, and they made a contribution, to Mississippi State. And, maybe this was all part of the Ralph Sassy deal, but, it looks like those years were, the Ralph Sassy years were decent. We had a little trouble there at the end. But if you guys don't know Ralph Sassy, maybe we'll talk about him one day too. Major Ralph Sassy was a guy that had to leave because of a nervous breakdown. But anyway, so Chuck, thanks again, and I wanted to share that with you guys too. I want to let you guys know too. This I'm kind of reaching the end of all this book stuff for a while, and eager to get it done. Everything is done now. The rat killing stuff I talked about. I got to give it the once over today, and answer a couple questions, and then it'll go to layout, and then it'll be pushed off, and you guys will be waiting. And so hopefully this week we'll have the pre-order link. I ask about it all the time, and I'm told, well, they had to fix this, fix that. So hopefully this week, I know you guys are eager, because I get messages every day. When can we order? How do we order? I want to get that to you as quickly as we can. And Blooms of Oleander up to number 6 on the bestseller list in Mississippi. It's interesting that people have so many comments about that list and have no clue what they're talking about. It's not like I'm the only part. Like, let me just run the list down for you here, just so you guys know. I just want to share this. It's not just books that are written by Mississippi people or books that were written in Mississippi. Just so you guys know, here's number 10, The Long Slide by Tucker Carlson. It's actually on the same publishing company I'm with. The World of Wonders, that's by Amy, and I can't pronounce your last name. The Age of Discovery by Becky Hagginson with Mad Creek Books, outside of Ohio State. From the River to the Sea, John Sedgwick. Then Blooms of Oleander, number 6. Once They Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey from Flatiron Books. John Grisham in at number 4 with Sully. A Place Like Mississippi by W. Ralph Eubanks, Timber Press. When Evil Lived in Laurel by Curtis Wilkie. I've got that book. I haven't read it yet. It's about the Vernon Damer killing. And then Another Kind of Eden by James Lee Burke from Simon & Schuster. So those are the books that are on the list. And so I just think we should share that this book to provide a little context here. These are the most books bought in the state of Mississippi during a given week. And it's so funny that there's always somebody out there. There's always a critic and somebody wanting to discount things. But I know that when Dogpile comes out, there won't be any question about what's number 1 in the state of Mississippi. It's going to be that book. If you're looking for all the books, you can go to alphadogsthebook.com, and you can get Flim Flam, Stark Villains, and Alpha Dogs signed and personalized. If you want Blooms of Oleander, you can get it personalized through Book Martin Cafe here in Starkville. Call them. They'll take your order over the phone. They'll help me come by and sign those. If you don't care about my signature, you just want to read a book, you can go to Amazon.com, Booksamillion.com, BarnesNoble.com, and you can order it. Won't be personalized, but it'll be a book. And also, if you're a person that reads on your Kindle or Nook, you can get Blooms of Oleander through there. So there you go. That's everything we got. And, of course, Stark Villain shirts. May have some news coming up on the Stark Villain shirts pretty soon, too. If you're looking for Stark Villain shirts, and every time I wear one, people ask me, it's easy. Go to StarkVillains.com, and you can order those today. That's going to do it for today. I'll be back with you guys on Wednesday, and we'll talk about what all Mike Leach had to say. We'll look at another Mississippi State opponent and kind of begin to prepare for game week. And then Friday, next thing you know, we'll get out here on Friday, and we'll talk about Ole Miss a little bit, and then we'll talk about previewing the SEC weekend. Should be a great weekend in store for all of us. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
There are a lot of choices when it comes to car shopping. Only Kelley Blue Book is your trusted resource for one-stop car shopping. Have confidence to price it, buy it, fix it, trade it, sell it, and love it when you KBB.com it. It's as easy to say as it is to use. Kelley Blue Book is the #1 most trusted third-party automotive site. So no matter what your it is, be empowered to nail it at KBB.com.
This Labor Day, put an end to junk sleep. Right now at Mattress Firm, save up to $500 on our top-rated brands when you get a king bed for the price of a queen or a queen for a twin. Plus, get a free adjustable base when you spend $6.99 on Sealy. Or save up to 50% on hot buys from top brands like Sleepy's or Serta. With our highly trained sleep experts and our low price guarantee, you can rest assured you'll get the best bed at the best price. Unjunk your sleep. Only at Mattress Firm. Offer valid with qualifying purchase. Restrictions apply. Valid at participating locations only. For offer details, visit mattressfirm.com/sale.